What's going on, guys? This is Chandler Smith, and in today's video, I'm going to react to a video where Dave Ramsey talks about how he believes the housing market is only going to go up for the next 5 years. Now, there's a lot going on in this market, and there are lots of doomsdayers that are saying it's going to do the exact opposite. I'm gonna tell you what I think and why. So with all of that being said, let's jump into it. I think you're gonna find it absolutely fascinating when it comes to Dave Ramsey's views and a lot of things that I think contradict where he believes the market is headed. Now, I'm not going to be a doomsdayer. I'm also going to do my best to just be realistic. So we're gonna watch the full video from Dave Ramsey, and then I'm gonna break it down and talk about the things that I agree with and disagree with. The only thing that I ask you to do is remember to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the little bell. And I hope all of this helps you make educated decisions as far as what you should do financially headed into the next couple of years.
All right, let's talk real estate.
Let's talk real estate, Dave.
A lot of folks are saying, I'm going to sit on the sidelines and wait on buying because house prices are going to go down. Let me help you with this. House prices are caused by one thing and one thing only: supply versus demand. How many houses are for sale versus how many buyers there are. Buyers are fewer in a bad economy, a high interest rate economy. There's fewer buyers, but they have to be less buyers than supply for house prices to go down. That's not going to happen. Here's the real numbers. Here's data, not feelings. Let's talk this through. 5 million more 35-year-olds right now in the millennial generation, prime house buying age, than there were in 2007. 128 million households right now. In 2007, only 116 million households. 12 million more households operating that need a house. And yet there's a shortage of housing. In 2007, we had 2.1 million new housing starts. This year, we'll have 1.4 million new housing starts. We have 50% as many houses for sale right now as we had in 2007. Inventory is at half. So the number of buyers would have to go down so dramatically before the house market prices go down. It's not going to happen, guys. House prices went up 32% in 2020, 18% in 2021, 7% this year in 2022. Next year, projected to be a 5% increase. Every year for the next 5 years, we're going to have fewer houses for sale than buyers wanting to buy them, driving the price up. House prices are going to go up every year for the next 5 years. If you're ready to buy, you're in good shape financially, you need to buy now. Don't wait on house prices to go down. They're not going down. What goes up must go down. No, it doesn't. I just gave you data, real facts. They're not coming down.
All right, guys, now that you've seen the full clip, we're just gonna go through piece by piece and talk about each point that he makes. He's right when it comes to supply and demand. However, you've got to understand that the market is very emotional. Right now, we have access to more information than we've ever had before, and we're living in the TikTok generation. And what this means is as things start to correct, I believe there's going to be an emotional response. We saw this with COVID and how people responded to housing. And through COVID, we saw a lot of people do a lot of emotional things when it came to the way that they spent their money. And so the first point where right away I disagree is it's more than just supply and demand. I also think that he minimized what a large role the interest rates play in supply and demand. He kind of plays it off like, look, there are this many people that are needing or wanting to be in households, and there's this much supply, and so I'm sorry, that's not gonna correct itself. I just don't believe that, because right now, all of these people have housing of some kind. Now, that might mean they're renting compared to buying, and that's why it's nice if you are a landlord, and I think landlords are gonna be pretty protected through this next couple of years, regardless of what the housing market does, because if people can't get into homes, then they're just gonna continue to rent. And if they continue to rent because they don't have the funds or they can't get approved for a loan to get into a home, well, landlords are going to win. But let's keep watching, and then I'll dive into some of the numbers that I wanna throw at you.
5 million more 35-year-olds right now in the millennial generation, prime house buying age, than there were in 2007.
All right, Dave, I love your stat. I love pushing demand with these 35-year-olds. But let's talk about these 35-year-olds. And this is all stuff that I know you know because you're constantly berating them for their decisions. This is a 35-year-old that has way more debt on average. That's car debt, that's credit card debt, that's student loan debt. I mean, student loan debts have gone up drastically. All of their debts have gone up drastically. So you're talking about a potential buyer that already their debt to income ratio is crap. You've also got to talk about inflation. This is a 35-year-old where their income has not gone up hardly at all since 2007. But inflation has gone up astronomically. Everything is more expensive. Gas is more expensive. Food is more expensive. And you're in a housing market that has exploded. We're talking about a lot of markets that have been 15, 20%. And you even mentioned that later on in the video about how crazy the market has increased. The other thing we've got to talk about is, yes, demand forced things to go up, but that was in a crazy time through COVID where a lot of people were saying, hey, we want to work at home. I'm going to YOLO on this house because who knows what's going to happen next. And now you've also got to take into consideration the fact that interest rates have gone through the roof. I mean, we're talking about if you used to be able to afford a $400,000 house, you can't even afford a $300,000 house now. If that, I mean, might even be lower because interest rates have gone from 2.5% to over 6% on a personal residence. So I want to talk about what I think, and I'm not trying to be a doomsdayer, but him using the statistics he's using doesn't make sense because he's not looking at the big picture.
128 million households right now. In 2007, only 116 million households. 12 million more households operating that need a house, and yet there's a shortage of housing.
Now, once again, when it comes to talking all of these households that need a house and how there are more, okay, we get that. We understand there are more households. It doesn't matter how many households there are because if they can't afford to buy, then they're going to rent. And if no one is buying these homes, it's going to affect the market. It has to. And a lot of investors are looking at these prices, and I'm sorry, purchasing a home, a single family home at the prices right now and trying to use it as a rental, those numbers don't make any sense. So you're eliminating a lot of investors from this pool. You're also eliminating a ton of home buyers that because of their debt to income ratios, all of their debts, all of their expenses, inflation, and all the things we've talked about, they just aren't going to be able to afford at these prices.
In 2007, we had 2.1 million new housing starts. This year, we'll have 1.4 million new housing starts. We have 50% as many houses for sale right now as we had in 2007. Inventory is at half.
Now, this I agree with. There is a supply and demand issue, right? When you look at what our normal inventory was, it isn't where it needs to be. We could still have a lot more inventory and be in a good place. The problem is how aggressively the Fed is acting because of how insane inflation is. They've told us there are going to be another 7 hikes on interest rates. And so when you think about that and you think about how much buying power has gone down, you think about the risk of maybe getting up to 7, 8, 9% in interest rates, and look at what that does to people's buying power with the current debt to income ratios they have. That's where this gets absolutely terrifying. Inventory is on its way up. I mean, even right now, we've seen the inventory is taking a big shift. In a lot of markets, you're seeing lots of price drops. In a lot of markets, you're seeing inventory going up by a crazy amount due to the fact of interest rates. And so you've got to remember, interest rates are going to have a massive impact, and they already are starting to see that in multiple locations.
The number of buyers would have to go down so dramatically before the house market prices go down. It's not going to happen, guys.
So he says it's not going to happen. I disagree. It's not that the number of potential buyers is going down. It's that those potential buyers are being priced out of being a potential buyer. I'm sure they want to buy a house. I'm sure they're in a place where they thought they were going to be able to buy a house with 2.5% interest rates, even if the market continued to go up. But I'm sorry, when you've got interest rates doing what they're doing, this is destroying buying power. And if the Fed continues to increase interest rates, sorry, Dave, we don't live in your world where everyone is buying homes in cash. So interest rates matter, inflation matters, all of these things matter. And with how aggressively these things are happening, I don't see us being able to not completely level out the market, if not take some sort of a dip until interest rates aren't doing what they're doing. Now, interest rates aren't that crazy right now. I think the real fear is the fact that they're going to continue to go up, and we've seen how people have responded, and people are going to continue to respond that way. People that are saying, hey, prices are at an all-time high, now interest rates are at an all-time high. I'm gonna wait until something gives. Either interest rates have to give or home values have to give, but if both of them are staying up and continuing to go up, doesn't make sense to buy a home right now. And so I believe that's how people are going to think, and it's going to have an impact.
Every year for the next 5 years, we're going to have fewer houses for sale than buyers wanting to buy them, driving the price up. House prices are going to go up every year for the next 5 years.
So he continues to say then buyers wanting to buy them. We've got lots of people that want to buy houses. It just comes down to people that can buy houses. Now again, I'm not being a doomsdayer. I just think for him to say over the next 5 years that every year the market is going to have an increase, it's just unrealistic unless the Fed bends on interest rates or unless prices start to come down, which that wouldn't work, right? Like one of those two has to give, and it looks like the Fed is not backing down because of where inflation is. Looks like they're gonna continue to do bumps, which means the only way that the market is going to be able to work is either we're going to have tons and tons of inventory or prices are going to give, or both.
Don't wait on house prices to go down. They're not going down. What goes up must go down. No, it doesn't. I just gave you data, real facts. They're not coming down.
He says what has to go up, has to go down. That's not true. Well, think about it. I mean, when at any point in the housing market have we had it go like this and then go like this and then go like this, right? It doesn't do that. It goes like this and it goes like this and it goes like this, or it goes like this, right? It has to have some form of correction because people can't afford these houses. If you're a real estate investor and you're saying, Chandler, what do you think? What should I do? For investors, guys, this is a great opportunity to capitalize on fear. There's still incredible deals out there. There are still incredible deals when it comes to seller financing. There are incredible deals even with current interest rates because people get scared and they sell at a massive discount, and you can lock in good rates for a good time period. But when it comes to rents are either gonna hold or go up. That's one thing I do believe in. Even if they do dip a little bit, it's gonna be a little bit. And if people can't purchase, then all of the stats that Dave just talked about are going to be beneficial for landlords because people are going to need to rent, and there's going to be more demand in the rental market. All right, guys, my camera had technical difficulties right at the end of this video, but I want to wrap it up and I want to get it out. At the end of the day, I just don't see how the market can't soften and at least dip a little bit, if not a lot, due to people's emotional response. There just isn't enough buying power right now with how high prices are. So I'm not being a doomsdayer. It's not gonna be like 2008, but there has to be a correction. And for him to come out and say that the market is only going to go up for the next 5 years, I just think it's unrealistic with what the Fed says they're going to do, because there aren't a lot of cash buyers out there that are trying to get into their first home or their second home or buy a home, period. Don't be fearful, just be smart and use the fear that is in the market to your advantage. If you enjoyed the video, let me know. And Dave, as always, we're not gonna agree perfectly on things. And this perspective from him does surprise me. But the best part is this has been a very bold claim. I'm saying one thing for the next 5 years. He's saying a different thing. We're gonna get to see. I think in the next 2 years, I'm gonna get to say, hey Dave, guess what? I'm right, but we'll wait and see.